When people see you doing things online that give the perception that you're a salesperson, their guard goes up and they become far more resistant to your messaging. And one of the hidden obstacles is that most of the current training available is still really based on the old model of selling. They've taken an old offline sales model and tried to apply it to a totally new digital framework. And this is teaching you guys to act like a salesperson online, and you may not even realize it. And that's what we started to notice in our research and surveys, looking at people's social spaces, what was going on. And so even if you attend a training and you'll see them teaching you to lead with transactional sales tactics and to brand yourself as a Shaklee Ambassador. But this approach doesn't work in today's social marketing and search-oriented landscape. And to make it worse, the old selling model can really kind of feel inauthentic and selfish. It could include deceptive tactics, even though you may not, that may be not your intention. But again, perception is what matters. It can make it difficult to enroll builders because they don't want to do that. It can be a very difficult skill to learn and master, and it can damage your brand and strain your relationship, so we don't want that. Now, there's nothing wrong with sales when done correctly with the right intentions. We're all selling something. We're all persuading, and it's a beautiful thing when you know how to do it well, because it's what allows us to change the world. Daniel Pink has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and he did a survey of 5,000 Americans, and the vast majority had a negative view of sales. Let's watch this short clip where he talks about that.
I did a survey of about 5,000 Americans, and I asked them this question. I want you to think about this question yourself. When you think of sales or selling, what's the first word that comes to mind? What's the first word that comes to mind? So I looked at the top 25 adjectives that people used in response to this question. And the number one, by far, wasn't even close, was pushy. And if you look at those top 25 adjectives, 20 of them are negative: slimy, sleazy, smarmy, aggressive. We had people who used not only adjectives, but interjections. People saying ick, ugh. The vast majority of people had this very negative view of sales. And I tried something else. We asked people, when you think of sales or selling, what's the first picture that comes to mind? So you ask people a question that way. I just trying to access different parts of their brain. What we got in response to that, in overwhelming, somewhat terrifying numbers, was a guy in a suit selling a car. And again, if I ask you to picture, what picture comes to mind when you think of sales or selling? I wonder how many of you picture a woman. We asked several thousand people this question, and not a single person pictured a woman. Every human being who was identified, it wasn't like a person selling a car. It was a man selling a used car. A man in a checkered blazer and polyester pants selling a crappy used car. And so we have this very outdated notion of what sales is and who sells. We need to scrub that out of our head and begin anew, because if you think about sales and persuasion and influence in a fresh way, you can be extraordinarily effective in your job and do something really important for the world.
What did you guys think of that little clip? Thinking of sales and persuasion in a new, fresh way. And that is really what we're all about. So again, they used words like pushy, slimy, sleazy. Luckily, all you gals out there, they don't see a girl as the polyester wearing salesperson. So you guys are in luck there. But us guys, well, we've got an uphill to climb, right? Thankfully, the new model of creating sales leaves prospects and clients with a great experience because you are helping them find and solve their problems. But hardly anyone is teaching the new model for creating sales. And ultimately, let's remember, You have to create sales in this business or you won't earn any income. And of course, you're not really helping anyone have a health transformation because nobody's buying anything. And we know they have to buy Shaklee products and gobble them up in order to have that transformation. And I know that's really what you guys are here for. And this leaves you at a significant disadvantage. So what can you do to grow your Shaklee business without creating resistance, straining relationships, or doing the icky things? And the answer is to lead with an education-based marketing strategy. Again, lead with education, and that will create sales opportunities. It's actually quite simple. You use educational content to attract interest, and then you nurture that engagement. And when your audience shows that interest, then you reach out and move them into your enrollment process, which is pretty much going to be a one-on-one, or it might be a group event that's more about helping them explore. But in the end, it typically tends to happen one-on-one to close the deal, if you will, put it like that. And this is when you can have sales conversations. So again, we're creating that interest, we're bubbling it up and seeing who's sort of rising to the top, we're reaching out to them, and then we're moving them through our enrollment process. And then we're having sales conversations that are very welcome. Now, here's a great clip with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, author of The Ultimate Sales Machine, talking about this strategy. So you'll still be selling, but you're doing it when they're ready for it. It'll be a welcomed conversation if done right. So let's go ahead and look at that clip.
Hi, it's Tony Robbins. Welcome to another edition of the New Money Masters. This session is going to be a very special one. I have an opportunity to introduce you to a dear friend of mine and a partner, and a gentleman who's helped businesses from all over the world. More than 75 of the Fortune 500 have sought him out. He wrote the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. His name is Chet Holmes. So how did you come up with this concept of how to create a competitive advantage that was different than everybody else, of selling the same way, marketing the same way? Where did the drive for that come from? And tell us just a little bit about, your background, how this evolved.
Well, we were poor, and when we were growing up, we were poor. My father was first he was a Marine combat instructor, and then he came out of that and became a police officer, and 5 children, and my mother didn't work, so we were poor, and I didn't like being poor, so I was definitely driven to try and climb above that. And then later in life, I got into sales, and I didn't like being treated like a salesperson. So I found that if I was able to bring value beyond just the product that I was selling, I could get more appointments, I could get appointments with higher level executives. And then when I went to work for Charlie, we institutionalized it. I turned it into a system, and because he didn't give me 9 companies at once, he gave me 1, and then I doubled the sales in it, and then they gave me 2 more, and then I doubled the sales of those, and they gave me 3 more, and so that's how I ended up running 9 different divisions. And then the first one, I doubled 3 years in a row. Using the techniques that we're going to talk to today. So the primary tool that I use to help people try and attract the widest possible audience is what we call education-based marketing. And you and I have a client right now. They're the largest home builder in the world, or certainly in Mexico, they're the largest. They might be the 3rd largest in the world, and maybe probably be the largest in the world before they're done. But these guys build 700 homes a week. And they're New York Times Stock Exchange, trade on the New York Stock Exchange. And basically, they're out there all the time going, buy a home X home, buy a home X home, buy a home X home in Mexico, right? And so we went in there, and again, trying to always understand the market, do research on it. Most people never do this. They don't really understand their markets. Like, I talked to a group the other day, and they were selling to lawyers, and I said, how many lawyers are there in the country? Nobody knew. They know their product, they know their service, they don't know anything about the industries or the markets that they serve. So we did this research, and we went out there, and we found out the biggest problem in Mexico is that people will live 3 generations in one household. I mean, literally, you will have 15 people living in a 700 square foot house. There's a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. I mean, in a kitchen, that's it. Very, very tiny houses, and they're shacks. And yet the Mexican government now is funding all the homes you want to possibly buy. So you can go out of that shack into a brand new home, and they're taking the money out of your paycheck anyway. So just like they do Social Security in the United States, in Mexico, that Social Security can be applied as a down payment on a house, and then the percentage that they take they'll just take it out of your pay and they'll pay the mortgage for you.
Wow.
So, you know, it's like, why wouldn't you get a house? And just motivating people to get out of that whole thing. So we did some research, and we found out that in a crowded household, the chance of infancy death is 400% greater than in a non-crowded household. If a little girl grows up in a crowded household, because she's the lowest on the pecking order, she sort of grows up with learned helplessness.
Yeah.
Boys who grow up in a crowded household are twice as likely to be a failure in life, twice as likely to be an alcoholic. Females who grow up in crowded households are twice as likely to get pregnant younger. You know, so this is data. So we took some of this data, and where their ads used to say, buy HomeX home, we're HomeX, we build homes, you know, buy a HomeX home. And their agency at the time just said to us basically, look, you know, the advertising is not really, you know, going to pull response. I mean, you know, people are going to buy a house whether they want to or not. You can't really motivate people to buy a house. We're just, you know, fundamentally just branding. And
right.
I don't buy that for a second, by the way. I do not believe that if you're advertising, you should be pulling response. Yeah. And it's a waste of money otherwise. Like, while I'm branding, let me pull some response.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So we started running the ads, and we started saying, you know, did you know the chance of infancy death in a crowded household is 400% greater? Did you know that blah, 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 blah? And then, you know, we set up the whole stage, and the first week that the ads ran, the week prior, the month prior, they pulled 7 phone calls.
This is $1.5 billion company, by
Right.
the way, so people know.
Yeah, and the first week they ran the ad, they pulled what we thought at first was 1,300 inbound phone calls.
Right.
Later on, we found out it was 2,300 because 800 went into nothing because we filled up their voicemail. Nobody could answer any more calls, so they were able to track 800 lost calls. And that alone, for a company doing 700 homes a week, in some weeks has boosted their sales 300 additional homes.
Wow.
So
it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And this is the value of education marketing.
So can you guys see the power of that? Moving from saying like, Shaklee's great, you know, their products are wonderful, the company is so amazing, to talking about the research, the education, drawing people forward. Here's an important thing, and I want you guys to type this out. When people are learning, they tend to lean in. So when they learn, they lean in. Go ahead and type that in the chat. So when they're learning, they lean in. That's what you're looking for, is to get people to go, what's that? Tell me more. And you may wonder, well, how does somebody who's selling, you know, who's a stock exchange business help you as an independent distributor? But it's about that concept, right? So you'll still be selling, but you're doing it when they're ready for it. It'll be a welcomed conversation if done right. In the past, before the internet with blogs, social media, and search engines, again, this was very difficult to do without running paid ads. But today, as a fully equipped wellness educator, you have all the tools needed to employ this revolutionary new method of growing your Shaklee business online. And here's a clip showing some of the success stories of our members who've had some of their best months in December. Who wanted to share any wins recently?
Was I gave my members a 10% discount on if their order was like 150 or more. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I decided to go ahead with it. And it really, really helped, because there was some that ordered twice, you know, during the month. That's one win for me, that my volume normally runs about 5,000 or a little more. But that was a pretty good jump to 7,000.
I send out this Christmas card. You can get the glare off.
Mm-hmm.
I send it so it hits like right after Christmas. So it's a Happy New Year card, because Shaklee has their reputation of giving us free shipping over that period of time. And the first year I did it, I was really surprised at the number of orders that just flooded in with the free shipping, which I use YFT's back office to create a free shipping offer campaign that I send out, because not everyone gets the one from Shaklee. And I do it daily, and I do it twice on the last day. And then the orders continue to flood in in January, and I keep a spreadsheet day to day what my volume is. And my volume is double the daily volume.
But thanks to Shaklee, those last 4 days of free shipping, I exceeded what I have had all year. I had a huge PV. I don't know what everybody runs, but I run a consistently, it's been since YFP, pretty 4,000 PV a month. And in December it was 4,600. So
Yay,
I was
good for you.
Yeah, I run because of YFP, and I do snail mail yet. That's what I've been working on.
Yeah, don't stop that. Don't stop that, because you don't have to worry about spam filters.
Right. This is what keeps me going, because a lot of people don't do the computer. So, but I need to work more with it. I'd like to get some younger people started. So, just had to share that.
Well, that's a big win, and I'm excited that you are sharing that. Now, you guys may wonder for a minute, well, that didn't sound very educational, but here's the key thing. You see, they've already utilized the discovery phase and the enrollment phase, and now they have those clients in the retention phase. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. So that now, remember how I said build a structure and then educate it, but you can also market to that structure. So you're using education to help you draw in the people, help you enroll the people, and to retain. But once you have them in that retention phase, like they're a customer now, that's why they're having these great volumes, and they're able to utilize Shaklee's promotions well, is because they've already nurtured and primed that audience with education, right? They've nurtured that relationship. So make the shift. If you want to build a business where you attract people to you and nurture a community of lifelong buyers, which is what they're doing, you need to make the shift from salesperson to wellness educator. And there are 5 steps to making the shift. 1 is you need to shift your mindset. You need to learn updated skills. You need to, number 3, use an education-based marketing strategy. Number 4, use action steps, also known as tactics, that attract, engage, and inspire people to take action. And then number 5, you want to build and nurture your own wellness community that you can market and sell to when it's the right time.